Tuscan orange grapefruit. My God, America is imploding.
I don't have a Michelob Ultra, but I do have a very, very heavy Captain Morgan and Coke because that's what I need today. We're here. It's Fanzone. Welcome. I love watching people's faces when they don't know that Ted is kind of the mascot of this program. It's very fun backstage watching and then seeing it and people are confused. It's entertaining. We're here for another match. This is another seeding match for the tournament next season. Winner of this match will obviously get a higher spot in said tournament. And whoever loses, well, they will get a lower spot. Interesting how that works. Okay. So the match we got for you today is Richard Schwartz versus Ryan Permison. This is going to be a very interesting match. We haven't seen these guys in a long time. Still that old thing that we don't really say the name of anymore. And I believe I couldn't even tell you who they played. Maybe they can share it with us. But we will bring in the judges today. We will start with Robert Parker. Robert, hello. How are you?
I am doing lovely. I'm a wee bit tired. I did a little bit too much of what you're doing now over the weekend, so I'm ready to witness this one. Still gonna be good stuff. I love judging debates. It's a good time. Maybe it'll wake me up a little bit. Who knows?
That's fair. And coming off of a win himself, Mr. Caleb Coho. Caleb, how you doing?
I would like a Captain Morgan and Coke as well, please.
You are underage.
Shut up. I turned 21 in a week. Fuck off. No, like 7 weeks. Shush. IRS, no, internet, whatever. I don't care.
IRS?
Listen,
the IRS?
Can you tell I'm tired? This is going to be a good one. Ryan and Richard been here since the beginning. Richard was the first #1 seed in the original tournament. Fun fact. So this is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, so let's bring him in. We'll start with Mr. Carefree himself, Richard Schwartz. Richard, how are you doing today? Are you excited to debate Ryan?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I'm doing good. Excited to be here. It's been a while. I think the last match I had was a triple threat between me, Kirk, and I forgot the opponent, who it was. But again, I'm excited. A little nervous because I didn't do as much studying as I usually do for debates because, it's baseball, like playoffs. So I'm focused on my Dodgers. They're doing well, aside from Monday. But I like Ryan a lot. He's a good dude. I think this will be a fun debate. I did do some studying, so at least I know what I'm saying. I'll know what I'm talking about. But I wish Ryan the best of luck.
Looking back, and it looks like it was Richard Schwartz versus Kurt Kolakowski versus Dave Goodger. So that was the lineup for Richard's last match. Let's bring in his opponent though today, Ryan Permison. Ryan, welcome. It's been a while since we've seen you in debate. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I didn't know I was going to be called up for Fanzone ever again because I can't remember the last time I even had a match in this division. I don't even know who my opponent was back then. That's how great my memory is. Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. But other than that, yeah, this is it's good to be here. I wish, Richard the best of luck. This would be a fun match. Richard and I, kind of buddies. We got no beef between each other, so should be fun.
Yeah, I found yours as well. You played Nazario Montenegro in round 2 of the inaugural tournament to crown the first champ.
Wow.
That was a fun time. The first and only. Okay, so let's move on.
Jacoby can't stop me from going for it, Tim. I'm coming for it.
Tease to 2 weeks from now. Okay.
Wow.
Let's get into it. So this is how it's going to work. There are 4 categories that the competitors have drafted. We have given them 4 questions. They have prepped those questions. They are going to debate those questions. At the end of each question, myself, Caleb, and Robert, we will write down on our handy-dandy boards who is going to win that point for us, and obviously best 2 out of 3 for each question. The first person to get 3 points in the match is the winner. If we are tied 2-2 after the prep round, we will go to a bonus question speed round, and we'll get to the rules if we need to there. So, guys, before we do anything, let's get ready to fight. All right, guys. Here's how this is gonna go. Question 1 is in a category that Richard drafted. It's the category of the MCU, and the question is, who is the most underutilized MCU hero? So, Richard, like I said, you drafted this category, so you get to go first. You have 1 minute on the clock whenever you start talking.
Now, there are a lot of characters in the MCU, a lot of heroes that, one thing the MCU does well is they try to give as much screen time to as many people as possible, and I feel like for the most part, the MCU has done that. The one character and actress who I think has been underused the most is Colby Smolder's Maria Hill. Now, Maria Hill is Nick Fury's second command. She started her debut in the first first Avengers movie, and she's been in bits and pieces of scenes in other movies here and there, but we don't know too much about her. Like, I think she is a very fascinating character. I personally would like to know more about her, what she could do, because as someone in second command and shield for Nick Fury, she has to be skilled at some. We know she's skilled, but I think fans would be more curious about what Maria Hill can do. And I will talk more about Maria Hill once we get to the fighting round. I concede the rest of my time.
All right. So we will move on to Ryan. Ryan, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
So when it comes to underutilized MCU heroes, there's a few names that come to mind, but the name that came to my mind in this case is someone who was teased in the events of the first Iron Man movie, and then he makes his full first appearance in Iron Man 2, and he has a few scenes here and there in Iron Man 3 and other MCU films and so on. And that is War Machine, aka James Rhodey Rhodes, who was previously played by Terrence Howard, and then things went awry. He stepped away, and Don Cheadle took over the role, and he did a really good job with it. But War Machine could have done so much more in the MCU and could have been a pivotal player and really should have been utilized even more so as the MCU continued on after the events of Iron Man 2. There's a couple of other reasons why he should be used more within the MCU going forward and why he should have been used in the past MCU movies. I will talk a little bit more about those reasons as we get into the remainder of the debate, so I can see the rest of my time.
All right, both people conceding time and saying it very politely. Interesting. Okay, guys, 5 minute of free form. Remember, don't talk over each other. 30-second back and forth, and I will come in with 1 minute left to give you that reminder, so do not be taken aback by that. But otherwise, let's do it.
I'll start off. Don Cheadle has not been underused. He's had significant number of moments in every movie he's been in. He was a huge factor in Iron Man 2. He had some memorable moments in Iron Man 3 with the Iron Patriot. He was a major role in Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Colby Smulders, on the other hand, we just don't know much about her. And obviously, I think the only scenes she's ever been in, she's only had like maybe 1 or 2 lines. And I'm just curious to see what she could do. She is second command to Nick Fury. That means, obviously, a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. She has probably as good, if not better, than Black Widow. And, I think we know more about War Machine than we do with Maria Hill, and that makes Maria Hill the most unused.
Well, when it comes to War Machine, yes, he definitely had a lot of significant scenes in Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, and then he is sprinkled out throughout the rest of the MCU. Yes, he is. But they could have done so much more with him. I feel to a certain extent he was basically just to come in to just pop his head in and say, "Hey guys, I'm still here," or do a few lines with Tony Stark as comic relief. He should have been not just so much more of a supporting role. He could have done so much more. Like if he hypothetically would have been killed off during the events of Captain America: Civil War, that would have affected all the characters throughout the entirety of the MCU. But they kept him alive because I feel that the MCU has more plans for him going forward, and that's why I feel like instead of being a background character in comic relief, he should be considered to be the new leader of the Avengers moving forward. Now that Tony Stark is dead, other heroes have retired and moved on to other things. Other characters are still young, kind of coming into their own. They can carry maybe a standalone film, but as far as the overall MCU, War Machine was there since the beginning, and he deserves that spot. Maria Hill, she's a civilian. There's not much she can really do. When War Machine has a high-tech suit, there's a lot of different directions you can take his character, as well as the high-tech armor playing a factor, whether it's the storyline for the next movie or whatever.
Well, when you're saying that, first of all, when you're saying that she's a civilian, she's a combat and shield agent. I mean, in your scenario, Batman is just a civilian. He doesn't have any powers. He's very rich. Same thing with Iron Man. The main reason why Don Cheadle War Machine was not a feature role is because we have Iron Man. And also, Don Cheadle is 55 years old. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a 55-year-old man, whereas Kobe Smulders is 38. And Kobe Smulders is just as good an actress as just as good as an actor as Don Cheadle. And the fact that, at least, like I said, at least War Machine has had memorable moments. Like, he was a big, massive part in Endgame, a massive part in Civil War, a massive part in Infinity War, whereas Maria Hill, she got snapped with Nick Fury. I mean, I think Endgame would have been so much more, a lot intriguing, an intriguing factor if Kobe Smulders survived and, her role with, Black Widow's Avengers at that point in Endgame, it would have been a very fascinating tale.
With Maria Hill, yes, she can. Yes, you're right. She's a combatant. She can fight. She can hold her own in a fight. No question about it. No doubts here whatsoever. But Don Cheadle's War Machine Rhodey, he has a bit, to a certain extent, he has a bit more experience than she does, and also with his armor and everything else he's got going on, like, he can play a major factor moving forward within the MCU. Whereas Maria Hill, yeah, she took over Stark Industries, for a little bit, and then that was about it. She didn't really do anything since then. You may have popped into an MCU film here and there. And when it comes to the comics, I hear more people talking more so about War Machine than they do about Maria Hill. Maria Hill, okay, what? You mention her name to anyone on the street, really no one's going to know who you're talking about. You say War Machine, you say Rhodey Rhodes, everyone automatically is going to think Don Cheadle, that character, that supporting role that he can move forward and do something bigger and better.
Well, that statement makes my argument more true. Is Don Cheadle? That means he has been used properly in amount. Whereas like you said, when you're saying that no one really knows Maria Hill, which would help my argument that Maria Hill has been underused, and saying that she didn't have really big parts in comics, she was a huge part in the Civil War comic, especially towards the beginning of the Civil War comic, where she had to lead the charge against Captain America, while Nick Fury, was on Cap's side. And also, like, I would love to see, like, maybe a Disney Plus show with Maria Hill, just seeing how she got to where she was. Like, how is she dealing with the facts of Civil War, with, the death of Nick Fury? We didn't get enough of Maria Hill, and Kobe Smulders can act, and she definitely is young enough where she can have some great action sequence. Whereas, like I said, Don Cheadle is 55. He has the suit, and right now he's technically paralyzed. I mean, with the thing, I'm sure Don Cheadle's going to use a lot more in the MCU. All I'm asking is, Maria Hill needs to be more used as well, because she is by far underused.
Time. Okay. We are going to start with Ryan to close his argument. Ryan, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
We're not talking about the comics here. We are talking about an underutilized Marvel Cinematic Universe hero. To me, it's War Machine. Yes, he's had important scenes here in the Iron Man trilogy and some other MCU films, but at the end of the day, he really hasn't been all that much utilized, and they should utilize him more moving forward within the MCU since he's still alive. They didn't kill him off in Civil War, so clearly somebody at the higher-ups have bigger plans for War Machine moving forward, and that should be to lead the team, to be the new leader of the Avengers, to help some of the younger heroes come into their own and be in that command, to kind of, fill that hole that has been left by the absence, the death of Tony Stark. And Don Cheadle, 55, who cares what his age is? Age is just a number. And his scenes in the War Machine outfit, those are CGI. So he doesn't have to worry about actually flying in a suit because it's visual effects artistry doing the work. But when it comes to everything else he's doing, he can do a really, really good job and really move the story forward and really make a huge impact with the MCU if they utilize Don Cheadle's character moving forward.
Time. All right. We are going to move over to Mr. Carefree. You got 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
The question is not which MCU hero should get more screen time. It's which MCU hero or character has been underused, and that is Maria Hill. Maria Hill started off in Avengers. She only had like about 3 scenes in the Avengers movie, and she's only had 1 or 2 scenes in every movie she's appeared in. Whereas Don Cheadle was a major role in the Iron Man 2, major role. A good-sized role in Iron Man 3, not as much as Iron Man 2. A huge role in Civil War, for sure. Infinity War and Endgame, where he was one of the leading heroes to try to bring back the people. Don Cheadle is a fantastic actor. He's had memorable moments in every single scene he has ever done in the MCU. He's had a lot of screen time. Maria Hill has really not that much time. I mean, she's just basically, as we've seen, like kind of the secretary to Nick Fury, and we know she's capable of fighting because she is Nick Fury's second command, probably as good as fighting styles as Black Widow. And I just think she is by far the one hero who has been underused in the MCU, and I concede the rest of my time.
Richard, really good at conceding 3 seconds. Okay, let's get them votes ready. Gentlemen, do we have our votes written?
I am prepared.
Okay, I'm going to go first. I think both openings were actually really good. I was excited to hear what was going to come through the freeform round, and then Richard went off to the races and did not let up. I'm giving it to Richard. Everything that he said about Rhodey and War Machine being a huge part of the MCU, Ryan didn't have anything against it at all. And Ryan kind of his whole argument about why Rhodey is underutilized actually benefited Richard more than himself. And I think that was especially true in the closings. I think Ryan's closing was strong, but it was not strong enough to come back from that debate round, which I thought Richard absolutely stole. So I'm giving my point to Richard. Coho, where are you going?
I think the worst thing that Ryan could have done was open up the comics argument, because as soon as he opened it up, Richard was able to use that against him. And then Ryan had to immediately sort of backpedal and go, well, let's not talk about the comics. And when that happens in a fight, that really says to me that the other person kind of took your point and twisted it to help them. So Richard did a really good job in that round. I'm giving it to Richard.
Okay, Robert, your vote wouldn't have counted, but where would you have gone?
I also would have gone with Richard on that one. It was good. Definitely both openings were great, and I agree. I think when Ryan was talking about, who can be more utilized moving forward, who should get more screen time, a bigger role on the team in the future, I think I agree with that argument. I think Rhodey could definitely be that person. But as far as underutilized in what we've already seen them in, I think Richard just really handled that argument really well. Just talking about how Rhodey has already had his time to shine. He's been properly utilized because everybody knows him, all these kind of things. So yeah, definitely I thought Richard took that one.
Okay. So Richard gets point number 1, but we are going to move on to question number 2, which is in the category of Bond, James Bond. This was drafted by Mr. Permison. The question at hand is, who would have been a better James Bond over Pierce Brosnan in the 1990s? So we are going to start with Ryan since he drafted it. Ryan, you get 1 minute when you start talking.
The 1990s were a great decade for James Bond for a lot of reasons. But if we have to take Pierce Brosnan out of the picture, the actor that I would have chosen to take that spot and to be that character for the great decade that it was of the 90s, I'm going with the man, the myth, the legend, the best Jor-El we have ever seen on screen, and that is Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe would have been an incredible James Bond. He has already had a number of projects under his belt leading up to this point when GoldenEye came out in 95, so he had the experience, he had the look, he had the physique, he had everything going for him, so that is why there's a lot more reasons why I would choose Russell Crowe to be the James Bond of the 1990s. I will go deeper into that as we go into the main debate round, but for now, quite simple. He has the right look, he has the right build, he has enough experience to play this sort of a character in these type of action roles. So I'm going with Russell Crowe. I'll go into more details, and I will concede the rest of my time.
Man, I must like to talk too much. Okay, we're going to go over to Richard. Richard, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
The Pierce Brosnan Bond movies, the 90s Bond movies, I enjoyed them. They weren't fantastically great and all that. But the one thing I felt Pierce Brosnan lacked as Bond was personality. He just always had kind of a serious tone, not really quite humor. So I think who would have been the best choice to be a Bond who can be charismatic, who can be serious when he needs to be, who can be funny when he needs to be, who can do some action scenes, great look, great appearance. I'm going with Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Ewan McGregor. I think Ewan McGregor at the time had great charisma. He definitely had the look of Bond. He definitely carried himself really well. When you saw him as the future, Star Wars movie, the future, he was the best part of the prequel movies. He can definitely act. He can definitely carry his own, and I think he's just the best choice when it comes to who can play a Bond, who can have the serious look, the humor, the wit, and I will talk more about that later, and I concede the rest of my time.
Richard has consistently done 57 seconds in each of his things, which I think is hilarious. All right, guys, 5 minutes. Ewan McGregor versus Russell Crowe. Let's see what happens. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
All right, well, let's talk about Russell Crowe for a minute. Now, if these movies had come out in the 90s, 95 is when GoldenEye came out, right? Well, Russell Crowe would have been 31 years old, or in his 30s when this movie would have come out. So he had the perfect age, the perfect build, the perfect, stamina, whatever, to play this role. And also to have GoldenEye and The Quick and the Dead come out within the same year, that would have been a great 1-2 punch for Russell Crowe's career. It would have boosted his career big time, because Quick and the Dead, really, really good Western directed by Sam Raimi. And it definitely would have been better than some of the other projects that hypothetically he would have done. I mean, he already had 10 films and TV series under Russell Crowe's belt, so that's why he could hold his own. He can do it. He could bring the personality, bring that charisma, bring everything else that you need within a Bond character to do this role.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. Russell Crowe's, he's a fun character. He's a good actor, but the problem with Russell Crowe is he has a bad temper. He has in the past not got along with other actors. And if you're going to keep the cast from the GoldenEye, from The World Is Not Enough, Tomorrow Never Dies, Halle Berry, Denise Richards, there's no way he's going to get along with that. He's always had some kind of temper. And for Bond, you need someone who can, be charismatic, who can be funny, who can be serious. And Russell Crowe always kind of has that resting bitch face. Excuse my language, but he just, he may have the physique-wise make it be perfect, but I just don't think he has that quite type of range as we saw in Les Mis, where he couldn't sing his way out of the paper bag. I know it has nothing to do with Bond, but I'm just saying he has been known to have a bad temper throughout every movie, and I think his ego at the time, especially during Gladiator, would have gone his way. Whereas I think Ewan McGregor, he gets along with everybody. He's a good actor. He can stand tall, and he can do the perfect tone that the 90s Bonds were set out to do, plus give the Bond some more humor, more charismatic and action sequence, where I feel like Russell Crowe would just look angry all the time throughout the Bond movies.
When you have the right producer, the right director, and then when you get the right actor, in this case being Russell Crowe, it can do wonders. And he can be focused in, he can be locked in and play that role. He can kill it. I mean, I keep talking about his looks, but he can look. This guy is from New Zealand. He lived most of his life in Australia, but he could pull off accents. We've seen him do it before in other movies, whether it's over here with Gladiator, whether it's another film like State of Play, which is a political drama that I could never see Russell Crowe play. And that guy had a mullet in that movie, and he still pulled it off, and he still delivered a really good performance. With him being at a much younger age and still kind of, learning the tricks of the trade, and Martin Campbell, taking Russell Crowe under his wing for GoldenEye, he could kill it. As far as the resting bitch face goes, that's in the hands of the director and the producer. When they work with an actor and hone their craft and really have those laser eyes and lock him in, Russell Crowe is in. He can be charismatic. He can drop a good pun. He can smile, at a woman and, just kind of sweep her off her feet without even knowing it. Like he
give me an example of when he's done that in a movie.
Russell Crowe has done that in, I mean, what was that one movie he did it? He was so good in it. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah. Let's try this. Virtuosity with Denzel Washington. He's doing an impression of the Joker, but at the same time, he can go up to a woman, be all nicey nice.
All right, well, the thing about Ewan McGregor is everything Russell Crowe could do, so can Ewan McGregor, but he has been proven that he can have the charisma, he can be funny, he can sweep people off his feet. I mean, his performance in Moulin Rouge was just, amazing. His performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. Trainspotting is another perfect example. And I just see when Russell Crowe, he's just really good at one thing, is to look intimidating. And like I said, you give me an example of virtuosity, I kind of disagree. He didn't really have that kind of charisma that a Bond is looking for. He may have some charisma like it was in Nice Guys, but it needs to be Bond charisma, not kind of like Bond needs to have certain kind of swagger that I just feel Russell Crowe does not have. Ewan McGregor is very likable, and that will definitely help in his performance as Bond. He's funny. He can do the action scenes as we saw in like Birds of Prey, the movie. He has the total package, where I feel like Russell Crowe, he's more comfortable with serious roles, and the 90s Bond films were just not that serious.
Ewan McGregor ended up doing the prequels. What did that do for him? Didn't do him any favors. Sure, it brought in boffo box office numbers, but who cares about the money? It's all about the quality, not the quantity. So in this case, Russell Crowe, he was in The Quick and the Dead in '95. Great Western. Guy knows how to deliver. I mean, he was a bit of a quiet, reserved character, but then when it was time to draw his gun and lay down the law, he did it. If he can do it in The Quick and the Dead, he sure as heck can do it in GoldenEye as a suave British agent, whether it's, flirting with the women, putting his cards on the table, playing a mean card game, or anything else. He can take down the bad guys. Russell Crowe has got it in spades.
Time. All right, Mr. Carefree, you get to go first on this one. 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
When it comes to Russell Crowe, he's a great actor. But the main problem with him being Bond is his own ego gets in the way. He has been known in like Gladiator and other movies to not get along with other actors. And I feel like with, actors like Halle Berry, who was in World Not As Enough, or I forget which one she was in, but Denise Richards and the other actors, they probably would not get along with Russell Crowe. And that would show within the movie. Now, Ewan McGregor, it has the charismatic. He has the acting chops to be Bond. He has the charisma we've seen in other movies. He has the look of James Bond, and he is a likable guy. He can get along, and I think as Ewan McGregor as James Bond in the 90s would make the movies just a lot more fun, because the movie would have personality, would have probably better acting from the other actors. I don't know how Pierce Brosnan got along with the other actors, but I mean, probably Ewan McGregor would have been a better choice. Russell Crowe in itself, like, he just has one type of face. He has a bad temper, and I think it would show in the movie. I concede the rest of my time. Dang it.
Well, too bad. You used
I did. I missed it. I missed that time. That's why I said dang it.
All right, we'll bring in Ryan. Ryan, you now have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking. Sorry.
Yeah. If you want somebody to play James Bond in the 90s, or just James Bond in general, what do you need? You need someone who's in the late 20s, maybe early 30s, bit of a younger actor. Russell Crowe, check. Someone who has enough experience under the belt that they qualify to be in an action movie like this, to take over a franchise of this magnitude. Russell Crowe, check. Has done, other films where he can show some of his other acting skills rather than just being a serious actor. The Quick and the Dead, check. You also he has the right look. He has the right physique. He knows how to, speak within a different accent. So at the end of the day, Russell Crowe, right age, right look, right amount of experience. You have Martin Campbell as the director. You have other producers taking him under his wing to, show him the ropes, show him how to play this role, and to take over this franchise for a certain period of time. Russell Crowe can do it, and he can do it in spades. He has enough experience to take on this iconic role. He has the right look, and also he can pull off the accent of a British agent. It's not going to be that hard for him to do it, and that is why Russell Crowe would have been the best actor to take over the role of James Bond in the 90s.
Time. All right. Let's bring in them other judges. Do you guys have your votes?
Yeah, I got mine.
Okay. Okay. Coho, you get to go first. No, I'm sorry. I lied. You don't get to go first. Robert gets to go first.
So that was an interesting argument. There was a lot of repeating themselves on both sides, like emphasizing the same point multiple different times. But in general, I ended up going with Ryan on this one. I think one of Richard's biggest knocks against Ryan was that, he's just like not a likable guy. People aren't going to get along with him. And Ewan McGregor is like a nicer person. That argument just didn't really hold a lot of water for me. Besides that, I didn't really hear a whole lot against Russell Crowe. And I think Ryan refuted that point pretty well. So,
okay, I'll go next. I agree with Robert in that I don't think this one was tough. And if I'm being honest, I think it's because they argued a lot about like which was the better actor, which was the more like nice actor, the one who could like swoon a women. But when it came to like actually talking about who could be Bond, it was like the same 2 points back and forth. Ultimately, I went with Richard. I felt like Richard's knock on because Ryan decided to say, Russell Crowe can do this, Russell Crowe can do that. And Richard was just like, name one movie where he does that. And I think that was a big stumble on Ryan's side. I think that it took him a while to get there, and I haven't seen Virtuosity, so I can't say whether or not that was complete bullshit or not. But based on that argument, that's what kind of made me lean towards Richard. So, Coho, it comes down to you. Where are you leaning and why?
Oh, I love when decisions come down to me. This was a really good fight. It was a close one. Ryan had some really good closings. I ended up going Richard. I think Richard, that punch of name one movie where he does that was a really good hit. It left Ryan stumbling a bit. And then the one Ryan did pull, Ryan kind of undercut his own thing by saying it was more of a Joker thing than really even a Bond thing, which I was kind of like that. I don't know if that necessarily sells me on what you're going for, but you did a good job of selling me on why Ewan McGregor could fit the Bond role at that time. So slight margin went Richard.
Okay, so it is 2-0 in favor of Richard. So in order to stay in the game, Ryan does need to hit this next one. So we're going to move on to question 3. It's in the category of comedies, specifically the 2000s. This was drafted by Mr. Carefree. The question is, what is the best comedic performance of the 2000s? So we are going to start with Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Now, for me, I think the best comedic performance of a movie would obviously be the standout of a comedy. A movie that's already funny, but one particular person's performance stands out the most. And that's why I am choosing Will Ferrell's performance as Ron Burgundy in Anchorman. This movie came out in 2004. I think this movie is absolutely hysterical, and Will Ferrell plays Ron Burgundy to perfection. He is so funny in this movie. There's so many quotable lines from this movie. His presence throughout the whole movie is not only funny, but it's believable, even in this more extreme world that this movie takes place in. And I will go more into it when we go into the 5-minute discussion. You stay classy, Tim Berkala. I can see the rest of my time.
10 seconds early that time. And trying to sway the judge, I don't appreciate it. Ryan, it is now your turn. 1 minute opening when you start talking.
When it comes to comedic performances of the 2000s, I'm going to go in the direction of, strangely enough, I'm going to go with Will Ferrell, but in this case, I'm actually going to do it with his best performance he's ever given in a movie, period. And I'm going to go with his character of Frank the Tank that was featured in Old School from 2003, okay? When he is with an ensemble cast and not the lead actor, Will Ferrell shines, and he does so well when he's around other people and he's a supporting character rather than the lead character of a movie. This case, he kills it. He absolutely kills it. Every time he's on screen in Old School, every line that comes out of his mouth is comedy gold. It works to his advantage, whereas if he's the lead actor in a film like Anchorman, it is to his disadvantage. It just doesn't work. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't do very well. Todd Phillips directed him in this movie, and he directed the heck out of this. There's a couple other reasons. I'll go more into it as we go into the main portion of the debate. So with that being said, I'll concede the rest of my time.
Conceding 2 seconds. You guys are nice gentlemen. Okay, Will Ferrell versus Will Ferrell. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to say Old School was not Will Ferrell's best performance. It was Harold Crick in Stranger Than Fiction. But the reason why I didn't choose that over I chose Ron Burgundy is because there wasn't as much comedy in Stranger Than Fiction and there wasn't as much comedy in Old School than there was in Anchorman. And I just think right now, Frank the Tank in Old School right now is kind of a forgettable movie. I mean, there's just not that many memorable moments. I think Will Ferrell's funniest moments in that movie was when he got drunk and streaked on the street and when he got hit by that dart. Those are the only 2 funny moments he is in that movie.
Oh, please. Every time he's on screen, whether he's helping Mitch move in and he's telling him, do this, do that. And he's like, we should have a party. Like, yes, say yes. Yes. Put in the fraternity. Do this, do this, do this. Everything he does in that movie is pretty much all. And by the way, how many comedic films featuring Will Ferrell can say that they've won this many awards? 2003 Arterius Award nominated Old School for Best Casting for a Feature Film. 2003 MTV Movie Award nominated Old School for Best Comedic Performance for Will Ferrell. that year. Can Anchorman say the same thing? I don't think so. In 2012, Spike, the Guy's Choice Awards, gave Old School, it put it in its movie Hall of Fame. Did they do that for Anchorman? I don't think so. So there you go. When Will Ferrell's in a movie like that, an ensemble cast, it works. With Anchorman, he didn't get any gold or any kind of notoriety or awards or even nominations for that role.
Well, first of all, awards really doesn't matter in anything. I mean, for the most part, awards are just a popularity contest to begin with. And first of all, in your movie, Will Ferrell, yeah, there is some funny moments, but there aren't really that many funny actors in this. In Old School, Luke Wilson is playing a freaking straight character. Vince Vaughn is playing a straight character, and Will Ferrell himself throughout the whole movie is just playing a straight character. Like, he's playing a character. You feel bad for Will Ferrell in that movie. You don't really laugh at him. He's always, the guy just be like, yeah, okay, taking orders from his wife. Whereas Anchorman, the cast is in itself an Anchorman, and it's over the top, but yet Will Ferrell in that movie is holding his own against Paul Rudd, he's hysterical in that movie. Steve Carell was so hysterical in that movie. Christina Applegate was really funny in that movie. Fred Willard was extremely funny, but Will Ferrell still stood out, even if it was the lead, because there's been movies where the lead kind of fell flat, like in Step Brothers, I think. I forgot. Oh my God, why am I blanking on this dude's name? But he's, John C. Reilly was a funnier role in Step Brothers than Will Ferrell. But Will Ferrell was the funniest person. There were more memorable quotes in Anchorman, funny moments in Anchorman, than there is in Old School. I think in Old School, if you're picking a character who was funny, really funny throughout the movie, it was Blue. Blue was the more fascinating character over than Frank the Tank.
Oh, please. Blue dies halfway through the movie, whereas Will Ferrell, he's in it for the entirety. And does his marriage break down in this movie? Yes, it does. And do you kind of feel bad for him? Yeah, but at the same time, you can't help but laugh because he's doing all these things wrong, but yet he continues to do them anyway. So he's being stupid about it and funny about it. And also, Vince Vaughn warned him at the beginning of the movie when he's getting married to his wife. He's like, "Hey man, don't do it. You need to be a single bachelor the rest of your life. Getting married. You see, I've been married for like X amount of years. I got all these babies. See the wife judging, watching, look at the baby. And by the way, Vince Vaughn's not playing a straight character. He's a funny guy in this movie. Mitch played by Luke Wilson. Yes, he's a straight guy. But Vince Vaughn and Will Ferrell together, it just works. And Will Ferrell, his comedic sensibilities are way so much more on par in this film than they are in Anchorman.
Speaking of Vince Vaughn and Anchorman, Vince Vaughn's performance in Anchorman was also fantastic. And also, like I'm saying about Anchorman, is there way more funny moments that people remember. Milk was a bad choice. Stay classy, San Diego. His character performance when he's talking to Baxter, you believe he's actually talking and understanding what his dog is saying. Whereas Old School, I think National Lampoon Animal House did the fraternity thing better than Old School. Revenge of the Nerds sure as hell did it better. I mean, and it's a very forgettable movie now. Not many people talk about Old School anymore. People today are still talking about Anchorman. Can you give me a memorable quote from Old School?
Seriously,
if it was really funny, you would be able to. I'm just saying.
Yeah, whatever. I know. Anyway. As far as Frank the Tank in Old School, all right, like for instance, where he's walking by the door and the guys are asking him, "Hey, what do you do?" He's like, "You want a drink or something?" He's like, "No. I can't drink. My wife told me I can't drink tonight. We're going to Home Depot, maybe Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know." That's funny. That is funny. And then finally he falls under the spell of the guys. And they're like, "All right, I'll do one. And then fill it up again. Once it hits your lips, it's so good." This was this generation's version of Animal House, and Old School did it really, really, really well. Heck of a lot better than Anchorman, because I don't hear anybody on the street talking about Anchorman. People are still quoting Old School like it just came out yesterday.
Oh, that is completely wrong. I want you to fact check that 100%.
Time. All right. Ryan, you need to go first. 1 minute when you start talking.
Best comedic performance of the 2000s, Frank the Tank, Old School, Will Ferrell, 2003. Why? Because when he works with a cast and he's not the lead actor in a movie, he does well. It plays to his strengths. The director, Todd Phillips, of this movie of Old School, really used his skills to the best of his ability. His comedic sensibilities and his talent in this movie for Will Ferrell and Old School were so good that people are still talking about it to this day. Old School is more rewatchable than Anchorman. He starts to shine with his one-liners in this movie. And also, this movie got Old School itself, best casting in a feature film. Nominated Will Ferrell for best comedic performance that year for Old School. 2012, Spike Guy's Choice Awards for Guy Movie Hall of Fame. Old School. Have they ever done that for Anchorman and the stuff that Will Ferrell and his fellow castmates did in that movie? No, they didn't. No one talks about it. It's not in the record books. It's not on paper. So in this case, Frank the Tank, Old School, quotable, memorable character, best comedic performance of the 2000s, played by Will Ferrell.
Time. All right. Richard, we're going to move on to you for your closing. 1 minute when you start talking.
It's easy to be funny when no one else in the movie is being funny, where everyone else is kind of playing the straight character. So yes, Old School has 1 or 2 funny moments. But when everyone is funny in a movie, who is over the top funny, who has to fight for an opportunity to have memorable lines, and not only does Will Ferrell as Ron Burgundy stand out as probably the funniest person in Anchorman, but he has so many memorable quotes throughout the movie. No one is talking about Old School. I don't know what Ryan was talking about in that sense. People are still quoting Anchorman to this day. People are still saying, "You stay classy, San Diego. Milk was a bad choice. Go F yourself, San Diego." San Diego, in translation, a whale's vagina. His performance, he is so funny in this movie. He is also so believable in this unbelievable world he's in. We believe he's talking to Baxter. We believe he is an Anchorman. We believe in what he is saying. Whereas Old School, there have been movies that have done that genre better, and Old School has been forgotten to this day.
Time. Okie dokie, artichokey. Let's bring in them judges. I'm not going to lie. I had something written down. I think I might change it. I don't know. I'm feeling spicy. I don't know. Okay, no, I know what I'm doing. Okay, Coho, your vote.
I gotta go, Richard.
Okay.
I think Richard had a major hit that Ryan himself just kind of conceded and backed away from with the quotes. If it's so funny, can you quote your own movie? And he couldn't, which is a major hit in this sort of round. So I'm going to go with Richard for that one.
Robert.
That point didn't really hold a lot of water for me because it's about the performance, not the quotability of the movie, and that's what the fight got really lost about a minute and a half into the open argument, where it just became from both of you, and it just became about the movie. How much more quotable is the movie? How much better is the movie? What kind of awards has the movie gotten? How memorable? How much is it still talked about? All this stuff, like that's not really. It's not about the performance at that point. So I ended up also going with Richard because I believe that he circled it back to the performance, more talking about how he plays off an ensemble cast versus being the lead. And I just heard more about the performance versus the movie.
All right, so my vote doesn't count. I also would have gone Richard. I was going to go Ryan until the closing. And then the closing of Richard bringing it, like Robert said, it was a lot about the movie, how quotable the movie is, how funny the quotes are in the movie. But what ultimately won me over to Richard was, at the end of the day, Richard brought it back to being about the performance, saying he makes you believe he's talking to Baxter. He makes you believe about San Diego. He makes you do all of those things. So ultimately, that is what made me move back over to Richard, because I agree with Robert. I think it was a lot of semantics talk about the movie. And honestly, if we were talking about like best or underrated performance, I probably would have gone with Ryan, but just best performance overall, I think Richard won me. So with that, your winner by way of knockout is Richard Schwartz. 3-0, getting the first 3. Boom, boom, boom. Richard, you have won the match. You have gotten another win on your record. You are now 2-2. How are you feeling about your match today?
I'm feeling great. First of all, I want to say great job to Ryan. Like he put up a fight. No, seriously. Like I was hoping it just barely that I was going 3-0, because I would have probably lost the question 4. Not gonna lie, because he picked a great choice for question 4. And I had somewhat of an argument. I just don't think it would have been as strong as Ryan's argument would have been. But I think, I'm happy I did this. I'm happy I won, but it could have gone either way. I mean, Ryan had some great arguments across the board from every single round. And I didn't know who was going to win any round. So I just want to say congrats to Ryan that you played a hell of a game. This 3-0 does not reflect this match.
Yeah. So Richard, this does mean that, like I said, you are now 2-2. Your rank will probably go up a few notches. You were ranked 14. So now you're going to be for sure in our tournament starting next season. Is there anybody on the Fanzone roster that you know of that you haven't played that you might want to meet up with in the tournament?
It doesn't really matter because I don't underestimate any opponent. Anyone who competes in debate is probably as good as me, if not better. So I always put myself in any match that I am the underdog. So it doesn't matter who I face because I'm always going to think of me as the underdog. So that just makes me work twice as hard. And I'm excited to play whoever. I like everyone.
That's fair. You are one of the nicest people I've ever met. Speaking as another nicest person I've ever met, we've got Ryan. Ryan, the match did not go your way today, but like Richard said, I think you did have some really good arguments in there. How are you feeling about the match?
It's fine. And first off, congratulations to Richard on his win. Good job. Three round knockout. You don't hear that every day of the week or twice on Sunday for that matter. So good on you, good sir. Other than that, I was here for 2 minutes and I got myself beat. So whatever, it happens. But move on. This league wasn't on my radar at all until someone called me here like, hey, we need you for a match. I'm like, oh, really? This is still a thing. I'm in this thing? All right, interesting. All right, let's see how this goes. But I got other things to get my focus on. So Fanzone, wish you guys the best, but I got my eyes on something else.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, with that, we're gonna move over to the judges. Robert, final thoughts on the match?
It was a good match. Richard did great. Ryan did good as well. Definitely. A couple of them were pretty close, a couple of them not so much. So that's what you want to see. It's a fun debate. These two nice guys conceding time. Also, the ARP did nominate Anchorman for Best Movie for Grown-Ups Who Refuse to Grow Up. So important fact check there.
Is that a real thing, or are you making fun of people?
No, I looked it up. No, that's a real thing.
Oh,
okay. And also had some MTV Movie Awards as well. But this is a fun little bit debate.
Coho, your thoughts?
Both these guys debated really well, even if the score doesn't really reflect how close it was. I think that both these guys are really good at this. Richard had a lot of really, really, really strong formatics points that he made. He does a lot of things in his debate that, as a judge, you want to do and want to see. And Ryan was really, really, really good at bringing a lot of supporting information to his arguments, which is also something you want to see a lot as a judge. So both these guys did a lot of things that I really appreciated seeing that not a lot of debaters really do. So both these guys did a great job today.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today at Fanzone. Not next week. I'm sorry. I still don't have this under control. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, Coho is back in the player's chair against Jacoby Bancroft in a number one contenders match. Winner of that match will go on to face yours truly in the final title match of the season before we get into the tournament. So
there ain't going to be no rematch, Jacoby. There ain't going to be no rematch.
I get it. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. We will see you in 2 weeks with another match. Grab a Michelob Ultra.
Take care.
Kiss your loved ones. Bye.
Asshole! That's my bad. I was sending a tweet.